Welcome to the Power of Your Mind podcast. I'm Victoria Gallagher, your host. Have you been attempting to use law of attraction or hypnosis to attract financial abundance, a soulmate, or career success? Would you like to be happy, motivated, and successful? Have better health, enjoy more fulfilling relationships, overcome struggle, and gain mastery over your life? Then join me on this amazing self-help podcast where you'll unleash the power of your mind. I'll be sharing 20 years of wisdom and techniques of hypnotherapy, law of attraction, visualization, meditation, personal growth, positive affirmations, and other effective methods to help you tap into the great power which resides in your mind and become the best version of yourself. Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 92. I'm Victoria Gallagher, the Law of Attraction hypnotist and #1 best-selling author of Practical Law of Attraction. Align yourself with the manifesting conditions and successfully attract your desires. I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist, founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps. So be sure to stop by HipTalk.com, sign up for your free self-hypnosis video training course. For our listeners who found us through Power of Your Mind podcast, you can get 35% off your first order of hypnosis downloads when you apply the code podcast to your shopping cart. And also be sure to download our latest HypnoCloud app in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Gary Bodley. Gary Bodley is the channel of a group of non-physical entities known as Joshua. They have come through Gary to bring a more specific and actionable understanding of the law of attraction and the mechanism of physical reality in order to more easily discover who we truly are and our soul's purpose. He is the author of A Perception of Reality, Health, Wealth, and Love, a radical change in your approach to life, and the Joshua Diet. He also runs 2 popular podcasts, Joshua Live and The Law of Attraction, and The Law of Attraction Roundtable. So today, Gary is going to be sharing with us some of his insights on how we have the power to choose our perspectives. And today, more important than ever, we really do need to be talking about the power to choose our own perspectives. So welcome to the show, Gary. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
Thanks, Victoria. I'm so happy to be here. It's awesome.
Yes. Thank you for being on the show. This is wonderful. And this is, you definitely speak my language, the law of attraction, but you also speak a language that I have been really interested in a long time, which is channeling. And, we have, Abraham Hicks that, does the channeling. We have David who does the stream of David. We have Joshua. And so I'm really interested to hear like how you got into this. I mean, how it occurred to you, and how can we use this? How can we use your knowledge to help us to really tap in and make better choices in our lives?
Absolutely, and it's my favorite subject. Well, first of all, channeling, as I've come to know now, after doing this for 6.5 years, channeling is like singing. Everyone can sing, right? And so everyone can channel. Everyone can receive inspiration, ideas, thoughts, guidance from within. And in fact, we're not really supposed to be looking outside. We are all designed to get inspiration, get ideas, get thoughts, get guidance from within. And all of our answers, we've been told this all our lives, all of our answers can come from within. But what happens is in our normal lives, we tend to, there's 2 really frames of thoughts here. We're either in alignment, which means we're looking at our reality from the same perspective as our inner self. we're saying things are good, I'm happy, everything's going great, that's when we get the inspiration, right? That's when we get that communication. And that's when it's available to us. But a lot of times we're in fear. And in fear, we really connect to a different stream of consciousness that's based in fear. And that consciousness will give you thoughts of like self-preservation or how to fix problems or how to change conditions or how to control people or things or yourself. And so the idea is to navigate life being in alignment more and more of the time and less connected to that fear-based consciousness. And that's really what Joshua teaches. And it's not that hard. We can do it.
That is one, this is so timely, your message right now. I mean, there's no coincidences because, I think we've had this interview scheduled since before this whole situation that we're dealing with right now. And a lot of people are tuning into that other stream of consciousness that you were talking about, the fear-based stream of consciousness. So how can people during this particular time, really train themselves almost to it's almost like we need to be a little bit more disciplined in our thinking. We need to learn how to kind of control our thinking and choose to tune into that inner voice. So how can we have faith and trust that our inner voice is going to guide us in the right direction?
It's not easy because in times of fear, you just naturally hook up to urges to change the condition, right? Mm-hmm. And so the urge says, oh, I better buy toilet paper because it's going to be gone. And so you see one person doing it and then you freak out. And then there's a line around the block in Walmart and they're limiting it to, one per person and all that. And that makes no sense. It's not effective. It is also, it's a self-preservation mode thing, So in fear, we think about ourselves. What is best for me? It's a survival instinct thing. If there's a lion, I'll bet you're running faster than the person next to you to get away. Mm-hmm. It's how do I preserve myself? But we are all one. And we, in the non-physical, we don't really see the differences. In physical reality, we have the survival instinct, and it causes us to, two things. Protect ourselves so that we stay alive, which is fine, but also think about ourselves in a way that's not effective. In love, when you're having a good time and you're with your friends, you're thinking of witty things to say, you're uplifting. Most of us who are listening to this show are uplifters. And we are, I was really amazed in my social media stream how many funny memes are on there and how many inspiring posts are there. And there's very little negativity in it. And then you look at someone else's feed and it's all doom and gloom. So that's a really good way to see where your vibration is,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because you want to figure out a way to get into alignment. And alignment just means that if you can imagine your inner self who exists in the non-physical, who's guiding you in every moment, your inner self is guiding you through emotions. So when you feel negative emotion, it means you're not in alignment with your inner self's perspective. Okay, your inner self is non-physically focused, has, a broader view of things, has more information than we do, knows what's going on here, knows the basis of the system. And so we have to trust that guidance. So you feel negative emotion, it means you're looking at life as an illusion of that something's wrong.
Yes.
It's not really wrong. When you feel positive emotion, you're looking at life as all is good, right? And that's how it really is. So when you're feeling good, that's how life really is. And when you think something's wrong, wrong is an illusion. And Joshua's overarching teachings over 6.5 years, 5 books now, hundreds of podcasts and questions, answers to people all over the world. It all started with the first words that were ever channeled back in November 15th, 2013. The first sentence in the introduction of the first book is, "Everything is right."
I like that.
Now, that's bizarre to us, right? How could everything be right, right?
Right.
So from the higher perspective, whether that's from the non-physical or even after a period of time, everything is always, always right. But from the limited perspective, we don't see all the information. So our belief says, well, from this perspective, it seems wrong because of whatever belief we were, adopted along the way. But if we had more information, then that belief would be rendered useless or defunct, because a limiting belief is really a limitation of information. So here's
sense, yeah.
So think about your first boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you had when you were in high school, and you had a breakup. You were devastated. You felt negative emotion because you thought this was the end of the world. Mm-hmm. Here you are years later, happily in another relationship. You look back and there's no negative emotion. Why not? Because that limiting belief that says you'll never find anyone else is not applicable. You have more information. You've found someone else, and you, in fact, wouldn't want to be with that person.
Yes.
So we don't have all the information about coronavirus, and there's no way to get accurate information. It's just not available. So what can we do? We can use our imagination to imagine the worst possible outcome, or we can use our imagination to imagine
which a lot of people are doing right now.
And that's what happens when you're out of alignment. You naturally go to the worst possible outcome, whether it's, do I have enough money to pay the rent at the end of the month, or am I going to get sick, or am I going to die?
Yeah.
But what if you use your imagination to imagine it in an empowering way? And this is what learning about this stuff is so important, because let's just say that we've learned that we live in a loving and benevolent universe designed to provide us with everything we need to conduct whatever exploration we want to conduct, and that we'll always receive everything we need to conduct that exploration whenever we need it. And that's what the definition of abundance is. You receive everything you need to do whatever you're exploring when you need it. And if you're exploring lack, you're going to get an abundance of experiences to help you explore lack. And if you're exploring,
it's like whatever you're putting your focus on, you're going to get more of that. So if we are focusing on more and more people breaking out in, as a mass consciousness, we're focusing on more and just spreading, we're going to get more and more of that. So, but if we focused on everybody healing, and we focused on the markets going back up, and we focused on the things that we want, we're going to get more of that.
And here's an even further view, because even that is based in control. Even the desire that that the virus doesn't exist is saying the virus is wrong. But if there is no wrong, how about this? Why not view the virus as a being of love that's come here to take us from one perspective to a higher perspective? So imagine that we're all running around doing our jobs, being distracted by the normal life. We're sort of losing connection with people. We're not really paying attention to our health. We're not really following our interests and passions and dreams. We're just sort of doing the same old routine, going to that job, scratching out a mediocre living just to survive. And here, this comes to shake all that up. Yeah. And now we reprioritize what's important to us. The health of our body now takes top priority, right? Where before it was like, okay, whatever, I just want to keep going to work. I'm not going to have time to exercise or eat right or whatever. I just got to get to work and plow through all that. And then the connection to people. We're connecting so much more now. I'm calling all my friends and my family and my brother and all that stuff. And I'm just making sure everyone's doing well, and I'm really thinking about them and can't wait to see them again. And then I'm spending time on my passions and interests. What am I inspired to do instead of having to go to that job that I didn't like? So here we are with a new paradigm, and this is a nice break from the old dynamic.
I love that. So I want to ask you, because, there was, I don't remember where I saw it, but maybe you saw it too, or maybe you wrote it. I don't know. But somebody had channeled the message from the coronavirus.
I read that. Yes.
And so it was really a message of love and healing. And, I came here to actually create something good. Absolutely.
And all of these events, you can say World War I, the aftermath of that was the Roaring '20s and how people just wanted to live life. And then the Depression, which caused this great desire for, more wealth, expansion, and that sort of thing. Right. Yeah. And so, and then World War II, people, if you left to World War II, there was a good chance you're not coming back. So when people came back, that picture of the sailor kissing the nurse in Times Square, that jubilation of life and of prosperity, that taking us in humanity into a whole new age, then 9/11 happens. And then, the whole modern world is saying, we are going to support each other in this, but it's still us against them. All these things are us against them, And so now the virus comes up. It's really not us against each other, even though we're a little scared of each other. It's us, coming together and hoping and bringing love to all of us now.
Yeah. And even right now, as we speak, the planet is already beginning to heal because there's less, pollution, air pollution from cars and planes and the things that we normally are out there doing. There's actually a lot of good, like you said, that is happening right now. And so it is what you choose to put your perspective on and how you choose to view this right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Think about all the normal flu that's not being contracted. Think about all the car crashes that aren't happening, all these other things that, we were mindlessly, engaging in that didn't bother us because it was just part of everyday life. Now there's a whole lot of healing going on.
Yes. Now, my question is, how can, so it's easy to, not easy, but for me, it's pretty easy to kind of shift back and forth, shift the perspective, see what I want to see in the world, have these kinds of conversations that are of a positive nature, and see the potential good in, or not just the potential good, but the actual positive things about this. I can really easily look, but it's also easy to get caught up in all the drama that is going on out there and start to and get back into that negative state. And, I'm a human being just like, just because I teach this stuff doesn't mean I don't have to work on it myself and sit down and meditate and shift my thinking and get myself into a good place, just like the rest of the world. So, why is it so much easier to be attracted to the negative than it is to the positive? If you find value in this personal growth related material, I strongly recommend that you sign up for your $1 trial to my Personal Growth Club. Just head on over to personalgrowthclub.com and get a whole month of premium Personal Growth Club video training materials, meditations. You also get 6 free hypnosis sessions that are valued at over $174, all for this trial of just $1. Even if you cancel, you can keep the 6 hypnosis sessions. That's my gift to you, and that's how confident I am that you are going to love Personal Growth Club. Go to personalgrowthclub.com and start your $1 1-month trial today.
Well, that's a really, really good question, and it really shows what a teacher you are. In the old days, there would be experts on things, and they would say that they just have the answer to everything. And here, you and I and a lot of other people are saying, this is a new approach to life. This is an approach where 99% of the population is not going to follow because they're in control. They're in fear. And they're used to receiving urges to control the conditions and urges to think things are bad and try and fix things and effort and struggle and all that. That's just our programming. We all have these limiting beliefs in this programming based in control. And that is just our default programming of our system, right? Mm-hmm. So the new approach to life is one of love and acceptance. But to people who are living in control, being and accepting is sort of Pollyanna. It's like you're not taking care of yourself. You're not putting up boundaries. You're not, making sure that you have everything that you need, right? And it's a perspective or a programming based in the individual needs to protect themselves. So a victimhood mentality. Mm-hmm. The new approach to life of love and acceptance is how we are designed, how the whole system is designed. And I'll tell you, it works very effectively. But it's based in oneness. We are all one. When I'm inspired to do something, I'm not thinking of me. I'm thinking of the benefit of all, right? Mm-hmm. Even though it will benefit me because I'm part of the all, there's no need. In fact, everything that I put out there is open source. So everyone can have it. They can take my name off of it and put theirs on it because it is spreading the love of it. It's spreading the message of it, however they uniquely do it. Mm-hmm. The idea of, copyrights and patents and that stuff is to make sure that that creator is protected. But when we're creating, we're bringing forth, all of us, non-physical ideas. We're attracting these ideas, and we are inspired to do something, and that's our creation. And each of us is unique in that ability to create something special. We're all unique, and so we can all do that sort of thing. But in this life of programming, you say, oh, I've written this is mine, it's not for the world. Well, if it's going to benefit the world, why not give it out there? Why not let everyone see it and use it and that sort of thing? Now, of course, I still charge for the books, right? Yeah. But generally speaking, everything is more or less available to all. So the teachings are all available to everyone. But that's the mindset of it. Now
so
that takes
copyright. Are you saying they're copyright free, or they're?
It's sort of like everything that's channeled.
Yeah.
Everything that's channeled is available to everyone to take and use as they like.
Right.
And they could write their own books. They could copy the books. It doesn't matter. I would never interested in any of that.
Right, because you're not laying claim to the things that have been channeled through you. You're a conduit.
I'm a conduit, but we're all conduits of our creation, right?
Yes.
We're all inspired. Where does that inspiration come from? Comes from the non-physical. And we don't manufacture thoughts in our head. We attract thoughts. This is an attractive reality, the law of attraction.
Yes.
You don't manufacture thoughts. You're either linked up to source consciousness, and that's a consciousness of love, and that's where all the inspiration comes from. Or you're linked up to fear consciousness, and this is the consciousness of self-preservation. It makes you feel like an individual. So if I'm the creator of my reality, then I know that my abundance is a side effect of my creation, right? Of my passion. And it'll come in the amount I need to do whatever I need to do. And so my exploration now is, how can I be an even more powerful spiritual leader and teacher? And so I get ideas, and I hire people, and I bring on new projects and do things like that. And it all sort of comes and goes in this flow of energy.
That's amazing. I love it. And I got such a warm feeling when you said that, that we attract the thoughts to us, because in my book, one of my 8 manifesting conditions is called the creative attraction. And the creative attraction, that's my own name that I gave to exactly what you said, is that those thoughts, they kind of come to us through our superconscious, and that's ultimately part of, if we're not listening, if we're closed down to that channel, then we're really not manifesting anything.
Yes, you're still manifesting, but not to the extent that you could.
Exactly.
Right. So look at your journey. You were a stockbroker. You knew that wasn't your passion. So you had this inspiration to look around, and you looked around, and then you found hypnotism. And then you were inspired to do recordings, and you realized that your superpower is your voice. You have this amazing voice and amazing look, by the way, right?
Thank you.
And then you come forward and you're inspired to do a podcast. And here you are now being a preeminent spiritual leader and teacher. You are coming forth as who you always were, but you had some limiting beliefs about who you were. You thought you had to get a job and you had to do this thing to make money. And then you realized that, no, I can follow my passion and I'm worthy enough of following this passion. And as you did it, you were led step by step. And then as you were going on that journey of true self-discovery, all this idea that you had a beautiful voice, this idea that you could do a podcast, this idea that why not do a podcast? Why not write books? Why not have a website? Why not offer things online? Why not connect with more people? I'm worthy of that. So you had a beneficial belief that said you are worthy of all these things you're doing. But we all have a bunch of limiting beliefs too. And so the process of moving from one level of awareness to a higher level of awareness is to consciously reduce the intensity of limiting beliefs. Now, this is interesting. In an attractive universe, you attract your beliefs. Mm-hmm. And so in your childhood, you attracted a set of limiting beliefs and you cannot push them away. Right. They're always going to be with you, but you can dial them down.
I like the reduce the intensity. Yeah, reduce the intensity. And I mean, which, ultimately, physiologically, you're also remapping the neural pathways in your brain so that you're no longer tapping into those limiting beliefs for the filter through which you see your reality.
Yes. And limiting beliefs just means that you don't have all the information. And so you're assuming life is one way because you just don't have all the information. You don't know. So that the more you study and the more you are inspired to go and read books like you've done, the more you get a broader awareness and the more those limiting beliefs become softened. And the important thing is, when you're in that time of alignment and you're receiving the inspiration that's perfectly matched to you, if you have a limiting belief, when the idea comes, fear is going to pop up. And fear will always pop up. It will never not pop up when you have an inspired idea. You will always say, should I really start this podcast? Is that a waste of time? Or everyone else is doing it? That's fear. Or this is the big one. I could always do that next week. That's fear that you don't have the time to do it now. You don't think of it as fear, but whenever it's guiding you away from what you're inspired to do, it's based in fear. So if the limiting belief is really strong, that fear is going to be really strong. So if we dial down the limiting belief, we dial down the fear, and it makes it easier to push past the fear to do what we're inspired to do.
That makes a lot of sense. So how do we engage and leverage the law of attraction? And how do we use that, especially now?
Okay. You only engage the law of attraction. The only way to do it is for the absolute acceptance of yourself as you are now, of everyone else as they are now, and of the conditions as they are now. Which means you have to see yourself as perfect as you are now. Now, this is a tricky thing for people to do because we're always told we're imperfect and that we have flaws and that we should fix or remove those flaws. And that's not true. We have a set of limiting beliefs, but we don't have any flaws. When you were born, the day you were born, were you perfect on that day?
Yes.
Absolutely. And when you were 2 years old, were you perfect on that birthday?
Yes.
And when you were 5 years old and now you can walk and talk and say stuff, were you any less perfect than those other 2 birthdays?
Still perfect.
Still perfect. And you're still perfect
only
every single day.
The thoughts have
you just
changed.
Picked up some limiting beliefs that says you're flawed. And everyone does that, okay? But those limiting beliefs are all false. Now, if you think you're flawed, you're going to seek improvement, and that's a form of control. You're saying, I'm not perfect. I'm not good as I am now. In order to be good, I have to get a degree or, write a book or do a TED Talk or whatever it is, or cut my hair or whatever it is, right? So everyone's always, this is why self-improvement really is a myth. Self-help is sort of a myth, right? Because you're trying to control how you are. The only thing that works is self-acceptance. Now, let's say you have a husband, and your husband says something, and you perceive it as an insult. Now, let's just assume he just says something casually. I've been known to do this, say something casually without thinking about it, and the other person gets upset. But what's really happening is he didn't do anything to cause you to feel bad. You felt bad because you had a limiting belief that says he should be different than it is. If he loved me, he wouldn't say that thing. Therefore, he doesn't love me because he said that thing. Well, that's not true. The limiting belief caused you to perceive that what he said was wrong.
Yeah.
And now in that fear that you're in, you dip down into that stream of consciousness of fear, you pull up an urge to make him different than he is. So that he doesn't.
I had that exact thing happen last night. My husband and I love that, we get to go for walks. And we get to go for more walks now, right? Because he's not going to the gym right after work. So, and so anyway, I had that exact thing happen because, I was told some information yesterday that kind of freaked me out. And it was like, I was sharing it with him and I felt crazy while I was sharing this with him. I'm not going to get into what that was, but it was some really, really weird, wacky stuff. And I'm like, I don't know if I even believe this, but I think anything, if you're intrigued by it, if you're somehow privy to that information, it's worth investigating. And that's my perspective on that. And he's just kind of like, oh, that's just, that's a conspiracy. That's BS. That if that were going on, then blah, blah, blah. And so, and I shared this with him and luckily we didn't even get a fight about it. I shared this with him and I was like, when you say, that like, oh, you're just completely invalidating there's a possibility. What I am hearing when you say that to me is like that Victoria is gullible and
right.
That's,
And you hear that because you have a limiting belief somewhere that you are gullible and that you shouldn't be gullible. The gullibility is bad. Okay. Now, gullibility is actually open to is an open belief system. And you couldn't be here if you didn't have an open belief system. But here's what happened. You have a belief that an open belief system, gullibility, is bad in his eyes. You want to be seen as good in his eyes. Yeah. Now, on his side, he feels fear that you are buying into something that he doesn't believe. And he wants to change you by letting you know that that's all nonsense. Right?
Yes.
So you say something and what you really did was you activated his fear. Now, he says that's nonsense and he activates your fear. So it spirals up, right? Because then you want him to be different. He wants you to be different. And then you have to stop talking about that and talk about something else or go to bed mad or whatever it is, right? And wake up the next day, you're okay because you've got to sleep. So that's what we call a manifestation event. You're inspired to say something because it's interesting to you. Right? Now, why are you inspired to say that? Well, you have this limiting belief about your openness of belief. And in order for you to become who you truly are, you have to get rid of that. You have to dial down that belief. The universe set this all up perfectly, waited for the time when you're walking with your husband, gave you the inspiration at the right time, knew that he would respond the same way. Right? Now, you have two choices now. You can say, oh, why did I feel negative emotion? Oh, here's what it was. I'm worried about people thinking I'm too gullible. Yeah. But that's not true because that openness of belief led me to this search of all these things I found and all these amazing people I've talked to, right? And it's something that's so interesting to me and millions of other people. This is actually my superpower. I need not be worried about it, right? And so now you've dialed it down. And so next time, I'll guarantee you bring something up, you'll see him coming at you, and it won't even faze you. Because that limiting belief has been processed already.
It's already been processed. Well, thank you for processing that. And thank you. And for anybody else who, has those kinds of situations, you probably also process them.
Yeah. Everyone has that situation. Everyone has, this belief that there's something wrong with me that I want to hide, and here's someone bringing it out, right? And that person he should have had a different opinion. And if he had a different opinion, I wouldn't feel bad, right?
Exactly.
But then you couldn't have processed that limiting belief. So you actually want these manifestation events to happen. You want to feel the negative emotion, and you want to feel it intensely so that you can identify the limiting belief right away. because this is the process to engaging the law of attraction. Really, it's the process of moving along your spiritual path to discover who you truly are. And so the more authentic we all become, the more our superpowers come out.
Yes. And how can we even learn and grow and transform if we're not open to exploring ideas that we never even heard of before?
Absolutely. Look at the Sphinx. So 10 years ago, a climatologist said, that's not wind erosion, that's rain, water erosion, right? And they're like, you're crazy. There's a desert. How could it be water erosion? And he says, because that thing is 1,000 years older than you think it is, because back 1,000 years ago, this was wetlands. And that's how it eroded. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, that's not true. And now they say, okay, that is true. So it took them 10 years. And this guy was laughed out of archaeology, but laughed out of science by coming up with this new idea. So all these new ideas are not coming through because of the belief systems are so entrenched, especially in our school systems, because imagine being a scientist. The way you become a scientist is to go through 12 years of normal school, go through undergrad, go through doctorate school, go through all this stuff. And your brain, I don't want to say brainwash, but you're taught by a basis of old beliefs. And so the maverick with the new belief is ridiculed until it's obvious, So we want to have open belief systems. We want to
Absolutely.
We don't need to be afraid that, we don't want to believe the earth is flat, but
there's a lot of people out there that do. Maybe those that are listening to this show, who knows?
Well,
but
who's going to believe that the virus is based in love? It takes a small percentage of the population are willing to believe that, but that is just a non-resistant point of view that'll allow you to stay in alignment more easily.
Hello, this is Victoria Gallagher. I hope you're enjoying listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast. As a way of thanking you for listening, I'd like to offer you a one-time discount of 35% off your first order at hiptalk.com. Just go to hiptalk.com and enter the code PODCAST in the discount code area in your cart, and you'll receive 35% off your first order. Thank you so much for listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast. Yeah. And I'm actually of that. I'm starting to shift into that belief myself. And it's, I go back and forth, but I prefer that belief. I definitely, and so I haven't killed the other belief yet entirely.
You want to go a little deeper? So I was inspired to research this thing called terrain theory. Have you heard of this?
Terrain? No.
Okay. So prior to Pasteur, the theory was that the body is a terrain and that organisms interact with the body, okay? And Pasteur came up with germ theory, that when germs get in the body, that's what kills the body, right? Okay. So we want to keep germs away. And in hospitals, that worked really well. Why? Because the patient's terrain was not good. They're already in there for something else, right? Well, the nurses and the doctors weren't getting sick, just the patients. Yeah. And so it was effective to keep the germs away from the patients. But it wasn't effective to keep the germs away from the healthy people because it didn't matter. If the terrain was fine, then the viruses could come, the bacteria could come. It wouldn't affect the body. It's only when the body was in distress or dis-ease first that the organism could cause any damage. That's the theory of it. And it's really interesting because if you look at the only one case that we have of real statistics on coronavirus was the cruise ship that had 700 confirmed cases and 7 people died. So it was 1%, right? And that population skewed a bit older than the normal American population, but it was mostly Americans. The rest of the data isn't there. But if you could look at that, you can say, well, how come of all the passengers, 700 were tested. All passengers were tested, but 700 were found to have it in their system. And most of those had no symptoms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of them had mild symptoms, and 7 died because they were compromised enough that this would lead to something, worse. So that really, to me, I think we're going to get a whole different idea of how germs and viruses and things really work. And this is going to be the benefit, because it's going to really lead us, or lead people who are going to receive inspiration, to this possibility that the immune system is the thing that we need to focus on. That the health, to create health, is not to avoid sickness or fix sickness, not to, whack-a-mole symptoms, but to create an environment of health, and to put this priority on top of everything else.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
And we can control that. That is something that we absolutely do have control over, is our own immune system. Number one, reducing stress, which is like so ironic, because right now the number one thing that people are feeling right now is stress and anxiety and fear, and all of that breaks down the immune system. Yeah.
And, we look at the news and we see the videos of people who seem to be in stress. But, if you've seen these videos of in Italy, people are playing music in their apartments, I think for most of us, at least in these first few days of it, it's sort of a fun vacation and an interesting thing that's happening, and a time to reconnect and focus on what we appreciate. And I don't think people I know, my neighbors who I see every day, and my friends online, everyone's fine right now.
Yeah.
It's sort of worried about the future, and but they were worried about the rent anyway, and they were worried about taxes, and they were worried about all these things anyway. The thing is, to engage the law of attraction is to get to a state of non-resistance, so that resistance doesn't have to go into the body. And when resistance goes into the body, when it turns to these chronic illnesses, because the body's trying to show you something. It's trying to show you where this inner conflict is. And the inner conflict is coming from your living a life in fear.
Interesting. So we've talked a lot about the limiting beliefs. So how can we shift that and choose more empowering beliefs?
Okay. So by opening your belief system and by having a conversation like this, part of this conversation is going to resonate with certain people. And when it resonates with you, you'll be like getting goosebumps, or like, this is exciting, right? And that's your indication that you have a beneficial belief. When you look at a sunset and you think it's pretty, it's because you have a belief that says that's pretty, right? Mm-hmm. And your inner self is saying, yeah, that's pretty. And when you look at a newborn baby and you go, oh my God, look how beautiful that is, that's because you think that a newborn baby is a wonderful thing, and your inner self. Now, when you're in these states of joy, and you get to be in more joy when you're not in resistance and we're not, in fear, that's our natural state, like we were when we were kids, right? Our natural state is joy, and we just want more joy. And so it's really a practice of focusing on the things that you're interested in, the things that bring you joy, but not resisting the things you think are bad. It's actually, that's still control. It's really a big leap forward to focus on what you prefer than what you don't prefer. But why don't you prefer that thing? Why do you think it's bad? Well, it's because you're judging it from a place of fear. So let everything that you think is bad go. Don't worry about it. Don't stress over it. And say, here's the thing that we say. If it comes to you, it's for you. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that can come to you that's not for you. It's always for your benefit somehow. And if you judge it as bad, well, you're just resisting the information that's contained in this manifestation event. But the event itself, or the obstacle, or whatever's happening in your life, has come to point out this limiting belief. And as you go through the event, which you will go through it, you will come to a new expanded place, a new perspective, and you will know more about yourself. And this is why you came to physical reality, to expand through experience, to get a new perspective. And as you look at things from a higher perspective, you encourage the building of these beneficial beliefs.
Absolutely. That's an amazing perspective to have, because I mean, really, I love that. I love that if it comes to you, it's for you.
Right.
Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, like
Exactly.
when people say like, oh, I can't believe that I got this, and it's like, well, don't say that. Believe it, because it is happening. It is for you. And, one of the things I've been kind of tempted to mention about that is like, right now, right this second, this moment is perfect.
Oh, boy, that is so true. Look at what we're doing right now. How could it be more perfect than this? We're having this fabulous conversation. We're in our homes. Everything, the walls aren't crumbling. Everything is fine in this moment.
Yeah.
Everything was fine.
I have lights. It's warm in here. It's raining out there. I'm glad I'm not out there. I have a half a glass of water. My cell phone's charged. I have beautiful cats running around. My husband's out, doing the grocery shopping. I mean, everything is absolutely perfect. So it is.
Exactly.
What's going to happen 5 minutes from now? I don't know. Nobody really knows. But right now, right this second, everything is just perfect.
Well, you've really touched on a very deeper understanding of the law of attraction. Because if everything is perfect in this moment, it means that everything was perfect in every other previous moment. We were just judging it good or bad, but everything was actually perfect. And so if everything was perfect in this moment, everything's perfect in the past moment, it has to mean there's only one possible outcome, that every future moment will be perfect as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is a state of non-resistance.
It really is. When I got the lesson of that, it was when I was in the hospital with a lung collapse, and I was going to have surgery. But when I chunked down to the moment, like when I was like laying in the bed and I was hooked up to a tube. Okay. Everything was perfect in that moment, because if I just focused on, okay, I'm breathing, I'm living, and not what's going to happen, but what's happening right now. And each moment, because I was scared to death, to have to go through what I was going to have to go through to get to the other side. But the thing is I just took it moment by moment and just focused on right now in this moment. All that's happening is I'm laying in a bed.
Yeah. You're being taken care of.
You have
professionals there. I had a car accident when I was in college. I had bought this brand new Camaro. It was a beautiful car, and I had it for like 2 weeks. And in college, I was, going to school in the morning. I had a business that I was doing with my partner in the daytime, and then we were both waiters at night, putting ourselves through college. And the business I was doing was just, I didn't want to do it. I was driving a lot. I was bored most of the time, but I couldn't get out of that business with my partner because I didn't want to disappoint him. And so I got T-boned in this car accident. In fact, in the car accident, I was not wearing my seatbelt. And when I woke up, I was in the passenger seat and the driver's side door was touching my shoulder.
Oh.
And they said, if you had the seatbelt on, you'd be dead. And I always wear my seatbelt, so it was really weird. So anyway, it got me out of this car I couldn't afford. It got me out of this business I didn't like. It got me focused more on school at the time, and looking back from my perspective now, after a bit of time has passed, I don't feel any negative emotion. I don't feel any pain. I don't think anything was wrong with that event. It all worked out perfectly. But in the moment, I thought it was horrible because I was looking at it from a limited perspective. I didn't know how it was going to turn out.
Yeah, exactly. And, job losses, relationship losses, they all feel like that. Like, this is wrong. This shouldn't be happening. I don't want this to happen. But like you said, we don't have all the information.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at that because many relationships have ended, but they all led to the one that I have now.
Exactly. Or the perspective that you have now, or your freedom, or whatever it was. Yep.
Exactly. And all of that. So it's, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And, so that's, I really appreciate your perspective on that. So getting a little deeper here, you talk about manifestation events. And so I want to ask you, what that actually means, a manifestation event.
This is a term that was created by Joshua, and it's a construct of the universe, right? It's there to aid us in our expansion and to help us identify limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. And if we're living a life in love, then when we feel negative emotion, we notice that that's really off, right? That's why do I feel bad? And you feel bad because you have either a limiting thought or some event in your physical reality, like an argument or a car crash or a bargaining of job happens, and you view it as bad, mm-hmm. that it should be different than it is. And this is based on this limiting belief. The limiting belief says it should be different than it is. So the event happens, and you get to tie it back to that limiting belief. And so if you can say, okay, this is happening for me, so I can identify this limiting belief, I can prove that limiting belief is false, just like we did with your belief about being gullible. And you mm-hmm. can find evidence to prove it's false, and you can write it down. In fact, I have a 7-day course that's free if anyone wants to get that, and we'll talk about how to get that later. But it's a writing down, noticing the manifestation event and writing down how you felt, the emotion, the name of the emotion, and the limiting belief itself, whatever that comes up for you, and then finding evidence to prove it's false. So there's a process to that. But what happens is most people are so used to blaming how they feel on outside conditions that they simply say that event was wrong, or that person was wrong, or I was wrong, whatever it was. Instead, if you can look at it from a place of love, from a higher perspective, and say, no, I felt negative emotion. It means something. Let's go inside. And let's not act on an urge to change the condition. Let's process this. And that's just part of a practice.
Yes. Yep. That makes a lot of sense.
Now, the manifestation event first happens at the first resistant thought, right? Okay. Oh, that guy's a jerk, right? Just a thought. You don't do anything, don't say anything. Now, most of us ignore those thoughts because there's so many resistant thoughts. So that's why meditation is so important. You get to realize what thoughts are coming to you. But if you don't pay attention to that resistant thought, then it becomes a little tiny event, like an annoying guy bothering you, or you just notice someone annoying in the store or something, right? If you keep saying that guy's wrong, then you have another stronger event, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's a full-blown event. And if you keep ignoring that and saying those things are wrong based in your fear, then it starts going into the body, because the body is the last stand. You can't really ignore the body, but people do. And they ignore how the body feels, and they try and fight it with symptoms or, with whatever, with drugs, alcohol, food, whatever, or medication of some form. But all that's trying to tell you is you're in resistance. I have a very good friend who's a super high-end, high-level professional oncologist. She talks to other oncologists. She gives speeches to them. And she says, when people come in because they have cancer, it's because they've lived in years and years and years of fear. Yeah. And those people who take this opportunity to completely adjust their entire life are the ones that can be cured. And mm-hmm. the other ones who keep living in fear, there's not too much we can do for them.
That I totally believe that. I do. It's unfortunate, but we do kind of create our own. It's fortunate, really.
That's the system. We're just not living. We're not abiding by it. So what's fortunate is that your listeners have found you. They've mm-hmm. found these ideas that are out there. We have technology to spread a different idea than what everyone was taught. Their mm-hmm. belief systems are open enough, even that they can even listen to this without turning it mm-hmm. off, Yeah. And that just shows that humanity in general is moving from fear to love. And this is why we see more abundance and more wonderful technology and more amazing. I mean, the world today, irrespective of this coronavirus, the world today is the best it's ever been.
Yes.
And there's more opportunities to do more things. We live better than kings have ever lived. It's just amazing. But we tend to focus on the 5% that's not perfect.
Yes. It's so true. It's so true. I mean, and that goes for everything. I mean, the person that you live with, or your body, or your business, or, I mean, the comments that you get on your YouTube channel.
I know, right?
I mean, it's like, you get all these 5-star reviews and you get the one star, and it's like, oh my God, the whole.
I just posted a video. It was a channeling from Joshua talking about the coronavirus, and I made it into a video, put it on YouTube, and it's got a whole bunch of likes and a whole bunch of positive comments. And one comment, the only one bad comment, says, "Shut up." I'm like, I hate that.
I know, and it's like, why does that one stand out?
It's not even that bad. Just shut up.
Right? I know. It's crazy. So, wow. Well, this has been very enlightening, and I know it's been extremely enlightening and helpful and positive for our listeners to be able to get exposed to this wonderful information. It's really, really been a treat to get to know you and get to talk to you. And so I want to get into your 7-day course that you offer, and about raising your vibration in 7 days by processing the limiting beliefs.
Yeah, it's a whole form, and it's a little booklet, and it's great, and it works really well. And if you go to theteachingsofjoshua.com and you send me a note, I'll email it to you.
Okay.
We also have a Facebook group called Friends of Joshua Facebook group, and if you join that, I'll send that to you as well. It might be easier to get it on Facebook.
Okay, so it's Friends of Joshua Facebook group,
right.
And then you also have your Facebook page. It's
just Gary Bodley.
Got it. Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Friends of Joshua Facebook group is easier to interact with people, I think.
Friends of Joshua. Okay, well, I'll join that group.
Awesome.
And it definitely sounds like a good group of people to be involved in, especially, they're, getting this kind of information. So do you ever do any live channeling events or anything like that?
Yeah, we have.
Do you do that in your group, or?
Well, the Joshua Live is a live channeling we do every Monday, and so if you're in the Friends of Joshua Facebook group, you can join that for free, and that's what the podcast turns out to be. So as we take those Q&A sessions and just record it, and that's the podcast Joshua Live. But we also do live events all over the place, and we're actually having a huge event here. But it's in 2 weeks.
Yes.
That may not work out. But we have another event. We have another event in Vancouver in August. Who knows if that's going to work out? But it's so cool. We could be online, and this is just as good.
It's
the
just
connection that we have now. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, I'm getting ready. Actually, I think it's a good thing because I was on the road for a little while with my seminar, and now I'm going to be doing them virtually. So
why not? Absolutely.
Why not?
Yeah.
And more people will be able to access it. And so this could be and end up just being a good thing for everyone.
Of course. Look at all the people who don't have to commute to work. They're probably saying to their boss, I can do this from home. I can do this from home. And it's like, no, you got to come in. And now they're doing it from home, and they're seeing how easy this is.
They are. And we're really tapping into some creativity that we never even realized was there, some inspiration, and just digging deep and becoming better and better people, I think, as a result of this. People are, being more, there's, you've got the ones that are not, acting from fear. But I think you have so many more people these days that are, really choosing to come from a place of love and kindness and generosity. And you're really seeing people unfold as the best human beings that they have ever been able to to be.
Absolutely. They're all moving from fear to love. And when I see someone with a shopping cart full of toilet paper, I think he's bringing it to a nursing home.
Yes, there we go.
I'm making it up anyway, so might as well make that up.
Might as well. It's all made up, right? It's all empty and meaningless. We bring the meaning to to it all. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the Power of Your Mind podcast. And also just one quick reminder to have people stop by and get that free 7-day course on how to radically raise your vibration in 7 days by processing limiting beliefs. And you can get that by joining the Facebook group, Friends of Joshua, and then going to your website, which is
theteachingsofjoshua.com.
theteachingsofjoshua.com. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Victoria.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends. And once again, be sure to subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast if not already. We can be found as Hip Talk on all our social media accounts. So like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, and sign up for your free self-hypnosis video training course at hiptalk.com. Be sure to subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast, and you'll be instantly notified the moment the next podcast becomes available. Also, please be sure to leave a rating and a review to tell us how you're enjoying these episodes, and that way you're making a contribution toward others getting to share in this valuable information. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. You've been listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast, brought to you by HipTalk.com, Personal Growth Club, and HypnoCloud apps available at iTunes.